World War II left in its wake a scarred earth, displaced and homeless people, a sense of relief, and a strong determination to move ahead. "3,000 miles from the nearest ruins, our military machine shifted into reverse. Demobilize, but maintain the peace. Withdraw the tools of war and tailor new ones to fit the atom." In 1947, the government severed the umbilical which had nourished the U.S. Army Air Corps since 1907. With a new title, the men who served donned a suit of blue. And facing a new threat, before the old one was completely forgotten, they shifted their targets. The first challenge to the new force was to extend the range of its weapons by thousands of miles. Strategists spoke of guided missiles, but in the beehive of the Pentagon, they seemed to most a wild dream. Scientific minds had studied the clumsy short-range V-2, and they questioned the feasibility of transocean rockets within the time imposed by world events. Then,
USA bomb monopoly is over. Russia has the secret.
And rumors filtered from behind the Iron Curtain that they were developing rockets that could deliver their bomb.
Korean War triggers new crisis.
Korean War triggers new crisis. Yet people at home found it hard to believe that war had come so soon after and might yet come again. There were perhaps as few as a half a dozen influential die-hard planners in favor of developing long-range missiles.
Let's review the report on the MX-774, 1948.
It has only been 3 years since the end of World War II, and even though advanced weapons are believed to be a long way off, the Air Force has made it possible for us to study a supersonic rocket-powered ballistic missile. We had to prove that such a missile could indeed be built, and so we constructed the MX-774. We learned a lot from the German V-2, which had a 200-mile range and carried its payload as part of the structure. But now we want to know if a range that is 25 times greater can someday be achieved. So we have given the missile every possible feature to reduce its weight. These ideas are not entirely new, but they have never been put into practice. And of course there are many who doubt that they can be. If the pressure-stabilized structure, separable nose cone, and swiveling engine concepts can in fact be proven, the United States will have its first long-range guided missile.
Air Force reviews rocket research, calls for ICBM study. Project to be called Atlas. U.S. explodes first hydrogen bomb in Pacific. Leads world in powerful weapons.
Russia announces successful tests of H-bomb.
Air Force examines Atlas studies, recommends priority and increased funds.
So began the greatest single research and development project in the history of the United States. To meet the challenge, a new division was born. With a bold new philosophy based on determination and the courage of conviction. They called it concurrency. Develop a transocean missile that would fly 6 times faster than a bullet. Design a means of guiding it through a needle's eye in space. They would need thrusters lighter than an automobile engine, which would deliver the power of Grand Coulee Dam. The bomb would be compressed to a lightweight package, housed in a shell which could withstand the fierce heat of re-entry from space. Build a base from which to fly. Spot stations along a 5,000-mile path from which to observe its passage, and plan the strategic placement of battle stations on the new defensive wall. Accelerate progress on each of these goals concurrently and with dispatch. Time, minus 4.5 years.
So we have taken the ideas which prevailed in 1948 and combined them with another concept which came about in the 3 years that followed. It is called the 1.5 stage configuration. So we will use a common source of propellant for both stages, start all the engines on the ground, drop the booster engine in flight, and let the missile continue under the power of a sustainer.
Super stainless steel from the American forge, fused into a structure that is still avant-garde today. The industrial pursuit of excellence by contributing firms from coast to coast went in the Atlas frame. And when the giant fledgling left its nest in San Diego, it traveled across the continent unrecognized. The schoolboy in Casa Grande thought the carnival had come to town. An old man in Louisiana came close to get a better look at the submarine. June 1957. Flight test number 1. T minus
10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, main stage. 3, 0.
The engine compartment overheated, and a series of events led to the loss of one engine. But the body of Atlas, still heavy with propellants, refused to yield to forces beyond the terms of its design. A range safety command finally destroyed it. There were doubts that the ICBM was indeed worthwhile, but no doubt that its designers had devised an incredibly rugged structure. The months that followed witnessed a hectic sequence of success and failure. Each event contributing its knowledge to the learning curve. September 1959. 4.5 years ago, Atlas was just a blueprint. On this day at Vandenberg Air Force Base, a count by the Strategic Air Command produced America's first operational ICBM. While a battle line was rising from plains and fields across the nation. A giant fortress armed through the efforts of 2 million people. Armed with a network of precision equipment and trained personnel. Armed to ensure the peace. Yet armed to destroy. December 1962. More than 100 launch pads at 11 Air Force bases. Operational. on schedule.
The development of the ICBM was a remarkable accomplishment, a credit to the forces of government, industry, and labor. Even more remarkable, though, were the extra or bonus achievements which grew from its development. Designed strictly as a weapon system, Atlas departed from this role early in its development. For example, this is a picture of the Earth from a height of 700 miles, taken by a camera, thrust into space by Atlas. One of the more spectacular achievements in this chain reaction of technological progress occurred in December 1958, a year and a day after the first successful Atlas launch. It was known as Project SCORE.
The satellite was a complete tank section of a modified Atlas, fitted with a recorder and radio transmitter weighing 122 pounds. This was the heaviest American satellite launched up to 1958.
With this event, the Atlas ICBM moved into the realm of space exploration, a purpose not originally contemplated when the project began.
Working with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the Air Force developed the diversity of Atlas. Atlas became the carry-all of the space age. Projecting an infinite volume of questions into the universe. Releasing man from the pull of 6,500 billion tons of Earth.
Knowledge begets knowledge. The more I see, the more impressed I am not with how much we know, but with how tremendous the areas are that are as yet unexplored. I feel we're on the brink of an area of expansion of knowledge about ourselves and our surroundings that is beyond description or comprehension at this time. Progress never stops. We're now on the verge of a new era, I feel.
The Air Force Atlas met the demands of a growing space age while being rushed as a weapon. It met and surpassed the demands of its makers for payload, range, and performance. It opened new avenues of knowledge, thrusting man himself through the thin shell of his atmosphere, beyond the environment he had known up to that time. Now, Atlas is the chariot of the space age. The standardized version adjusts readily to a variety of missions. It is a composite of proven systems ranging from MX-774 to the present. Its proficiency is measured in terms of the payload it can thrust into orbit at a predictable cost per pound. It is scheduled for more than 100 special missions over the next 10 years. It is the assigned booster for a number of Air Force satellites, the eccentric Orbital Geophysical Observatory, the Gemini Rendezvous satellite, the Orbiting Astronomical Observatory, Mariner, Ranger, and Surveyor. And the list will grow, for there is no end in sight to the useful reign the old queen. In 1948, there were perhaps half a dozen influential die-hard advocates in favor of developing long-range missiles. Not even these men could have anticipated the breakthrough that has led us beyond the envelope. They planned in silence, thinking beyond tomorrow.